word says, right? So we've been working, shaping a program that is going to make sense and is going to address all the things that we want. And so we thought that would be a great idea to have Mrs. Francis join us today and talk a little bit about how different leadership styles can shape the culture of a company. I'll let her introduce herself, but she has over 20 years of experience and has done over 100 keynote speak events, and so she knows what she's talking about. She's amazing. We had several conversations, and so I hope that you all enjoy. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. So I needed my tea. Thank you so much. I tend to move. So first, congratulations to all the award winners. I think rewarding awards are important, so let me start there. If you have children, proxy parent, godparent, aunt, uncle, all the above, there is no greater welcome than when you enter the room with gifts. And children appreciate gifts. And I've learned as an adult, we love them even more, especially when we can use them. I have probably 100 different pens, clipboards, USBs, mugs, Post-its from different conferences and such. But one of the best rewards, if you will, I received was a round of applause. It's a little clapper that literally you take and you keep, and occasionally you give yourself a round of applause. So to the leaders this morning, I'm grateful that you have leadership that pause to make sure you are recognized. So let's give our leaders a round of applause. The Now, with that said, I have my own cameraman. I have my own photographer, and I am so proud of that, not because I have a marketing fund for that, but because he's married to me, and nearly 20 years in, we have an agreement, what I ask for he does. So that's my husband in the back, Michael. He has to slip out. But ironically enough, he used to be an executive here at the Hard Rock, and great relationship, left on good terms. You will not believe he is in the telecom broadband industry, down the street at SBA Communications in Boca. So funny enough, this is our world. But what I want to do this morning is share with you why leadership enablement and education and development is so important. Often we'll say training, but it's obvious that your leaders, by your GP, by your customer experience, by your customer reviews, but more importantly, by your team. So when we think about leadership and we come to a summit like this, by day 2, we are usually tapped out. We have drink, juice, water, and other things. We have eaten. We have had all the sugar or more that we need. We've come off of our carb-watching diet because we have given in to all the goodies that someone else has made on our behalf. And then life resets. So my goal today is to make sure that I serve you in a way that when you walk out the room, you're compelled to take this to your team whom you lead. First of all, are there any veterans in the room? Veterans, please raise your hand. Thank you for your service, first of all, thank you. I'm a child of a veteran, 3 generations in, and we cannot do what we do without your service, so thank you for your service. Are there any teachers or educators, formerly in another lifetime? Thank you for your service. I have a 13-year-old, our youngest, and I never want to do homeschooling again. I never want the pandemic experience again. I love her, but all day with her is harder than any other job, and she's now a preteen. So, are there any other educators in the room? Can I have the employees of ITG raise their hands? If you are an employee, part of the organization, awesome, you are an educator. Thank you for your service. As leaders, we are tasked with succession planning, educating, and enabling. So today, we'll talk about what that looks like. Do I need to point at mine? Everybody's pointer is different. So just let me know, do I need to point the green button here or there? There, perfect, yeah. Let's see where it go. And I'm the techie. Not moving there or there. There we go. Okay. Learning is profit. Companies that invest at least $1,500 per employee on learning earn 24% higher. So that $1.2 billion number has an opportunity of a 24% increase just by investing in employee education. The best leaders are lifelong learners. John Wooden. And then JFK, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. Leadership and learning are indispensable. So, I will not talk to you for the next 60 minutes. If I looked at the actual schedule itinerary and saw someone talking for 60 minutes, I would be nauseated. I just want to be honest, this is who I am. But we will have a discussion. We will interact, and then we will come to an agreement on what leadership enablement looks like for ITG. So, here's something I think you all are familiar with. This is ITG, one team, one mission. Founded in 2013, we started as techs, correct? And bring an unwavering commitment to customer service. I love that. Quality, craftsmanship, innovation, solutions, and safety. I found that on the website. Is that true? Yes? No? Yes. Perfect. Okay. Now, you do not know me outside of my husband, Michael. No one here is familiar with me. So I owe you this before I talk to you. I like pictures. I think a bunch of words on a PowerPoint makes it very hard to listen and comprehend at the same time. So, this is who I am. What state am I from? You can take a guess. Jersey. What exit? If you're really Jersey, then you know that exit. The flooded one, well, you know, to that point, you have some people impacted right now. I am from New Brunswick, New Jersey, often associated with Rutgers, Johnson & Johnson, Robert Wood Medical Center now. And so, that is home for me. We now live here, Lake Worth, Wellington, but that is always home. Okay, the picture of that beautiful little girl and that dashing guy, that's Michael and Zoe. We also have two older children, Gregory and Danielle, and a grandson. Okay, on the far left, that flood you all see. Does anybody have an idea what that might be? Hurricane Harvey. That was the bottom of 610. We lived 2.5 miles from there. We could not get to our daughter and get her from school. She was there until around 8:30 p.m. There's no worse feeling than you can't get to your child. And I think that is the only time I've ever seen my husband actually afraid outside of when we were giving birth and I was over it. But we couldn't get to her. And the reason I show that picture is because we had field technicians, we had cabling vendors, everyone in the community put in to try to help to get most of the children who were stuck over at the Beaches Mills Charter School, which is in the 3rd Ward of Houston, Texas. One of the most poverty-ridden areas, however, the #1 performing charter school in the South. So, that's Hurricane Harvey. Below Hurricane Harvey, who's that? Please tell me you know. Someone said it. Queen, okay. Love Queen, obsessed with Queen. Had to put them up there. We Are the Champions is like a theme song to my life. Okay, the middle picture with a lot of those railing and all the good stuff. No clue, I didn't expect anyone to know it. I built the 3rd Ward Tower of the Dell Children's Medical Center in Austin. So this is a reflection of the cranes in the sky from the infrastructure work I've done. The picture to the right, I think very familiar, depending on what side you're sitting on, left or right, colorful. Disney World. Disney World. One of the greatest places I had a chance to speak at, over 2,000 people, and it was for a tech conference, but my focus area was infrastructure cybersecurity. Below, The Late Show with David Letterman. Does anyone know what I did there? Watch the show. That's the perspective, normally. I sung background vocals for 4 years for the David Letterman show. So that was a lot of fun in a very cold green room all the time. Below that, myself, and the former CEO of SBA Communications and his wife. And every year, my last name is
Stoops. Jeffrey Stoops.
Stoops, Jeff Stoops, because we say Stoops. We were picture buddies, dance partners, because I dressed the best for him and he enjoyed to dance. That relationship is relevant here because of the work that you all do. So I'm just giving you a picture of my life. More importantly, I've done years of work in broadband and ACP, and so I sat on the board by the FTC with him. Then that was Zoe when she was 2, and I was traveling to little small towns as our infrastructure team was installing and upgrading for every Cisco Foods operating company in the world. 286 sites, I have over 400 engineers, 97 architects, and then a plethora of staff. And so at the bottom, you see emergency broadband, all the things. I want to introduce myself because I think it's important that you know who's sharing this time with you. You'll never get it back. Some will argue outside of data, this is the greatest commodity. I think it is data, but I think it's important for you all to know who I am in a glimpse. So thank you for giving me the next 60 minutes to share with you. So let's close our eyes. Yes, I asked you to close your eyes. I'm not gonna make you do yoga. I'm not gonna make you breathe. I'm not gonna make you do anything, but for a second, I would like for you to close your eyes. And let me say that your devices are welcome. I live in the real world. We do so much as leaders, we need our cell phones out. So I'm not gonna do the take it away, hush it, use it for notes. But I need you to close your eyes. So, in 1979, the Seminole tribe had to make a decision about their future. And part of that was actually the bingo hall. So if you can imagine, to your right, this all started with the bingo hall. And let's be very clear, it was a folding chair. Open your eyes. Are you sitting in the folding chair? I could not find the folding chair. I asked around, I need a folding chair. Everyone was like, what? A folding chair? My husband didn't know I was asking. I'm like, I need a folding chair for demonstration. The folding chair is not here. That's not how they actually set up and organize the space anymore because they've grown. But the bingo hall is the actual origin of where we now sit. So to imagine the sacred land we're on started with a bingo hall in 1979, a folding chair, and someone yelling I-24, G79, 419. I had the luxury of growing up in Catholic school, and that was how we made an extra $8 every week, which was big money to me. We served the coffee and tea at the bingo hall, and it still runs to this day. Now, what you need to know, high stakes. Not just in the mere thought that we can start a bingo hall, fund our community, but we can do it and then actually defy the limits. This is part of leadership. Now today, you have literally the guitar, a 450-foot guitar. And if you think from a humble start of a bingo hall to now, the guitar here in Hollywood, Florida, also knows that the Seminole tribe owns all of the Hard Rock entities, cafes and all. And I bring that to you because as leaders, someone had to have the foresight that it was possible. So I'm talking to ITG today. Let's just think ITG for the moment equals inspire, trust, and grow. I believe that is the only way as leaders we can continue to plan, to grow, to succeed. But the most important dynamic and character we have to have is influence. I struggle with getting my daughter to do all of her chores all week. It is the bane of my existence right now as a mom. However, I am trying different ways to be influential. My husband said, just be patient. I said, I'm over it. So, am I exemplifying leadership skills? Moments. But I have to think about how do I inspire? How do I show that there's trust there? And then how do we grow? So, we know the history of ITG. I love this. We started as techs. 175 locations, over 8,000 in the workforce, 300,000 miles of fiber installed, 20 years of blue chip relationships. Now, I believe the numbers have grown more, even by hearing the awards today. But what I want us to think about as leaders is, are we all speaking the same language? You all have a team that you manage, that you direct, and do they always see themselves as leaders? I think the results in your numbers make that clear. Watching your interaction, walking through the halls yesterday, seeing others in the registration line, it reflects what seems to me a healthy, actual culture organization. So how do we make sure that cascades? When I do my research, this is what I find about ITG. And I want to be clear, the truck at the bottom was during Hurricane Ian. I think sometimes people don't realize in this industry, the work that you do is more than infrastructure, it's a lifeline. I understand it because I've done the work. I've managed the work, I've traced cables, I've climbed into closets, I've climbed into ceilings, managed P&Ls, managed teammates, caught a couple of flights and trains while 8 months pregnant because the work had to get done. But when you have a team that works together with the same mission, you actually can get there faster. So why we came to inspire, trust, and grow. You always want to clarify the why. The why fuels the margin. We heard our president, Elliot, start with numbers, and I love that. We haven't had a chance to talk. He's trusted the CHRO with who she's chosen, but he started with the numbers. And the numbers are real. Trust, active listening, red flag rituals. Red flag rituals that surface risk. We'll talk about that. And then grow. You have to reinvest savings into coaching and continuous improvement. So my task today is to have a conversation with you and figure out where you see your team and your leadership style in this, if you will, formula of ITG equals inspire, trust, and grow. Today, the guitar shaped hotel symbolizes the reinvestment of bingo hall profits into a world-class experience. So I've already heard a lot about acquisition this morning. I heard about debt. I heard about the sacrifice. And I also heard about the reinvestment. So what does it look like when we reinvest in our teammates emotionally, physically, and give them the tooling? Tomorrow. That is what tomorrow looks like for the Hard Rock. The actual Las Vegas Hard Rock is slated for 2027 opening. And I can't even imagine what that opening will be like. For this guitar, it was 2019. And so now within 10 years, they'll have their second one. And there is a plan worldwide. How does this relate to ITG? What is in the plan? What does tomorrow look like for ITG? That has to be communicated to your leaders, your peers, and those who roll up to you. Sometimes asking why allows everyone to have a level set of the what and the who, and then the how. So they need clarity. This is not to say that they don't have clarity, but sometimes we talk about the present versus the future. So making sure that everyone understands what tomorrow looks like for ITG. Now, I'm not going to read the journey to you. I assume most in the room are familiar, but I really just wanted to reflect it again because someone told me this morning, oh, just made an acquisition yesterday. So coming from Johnson & Johnson, we made acquisitions daily, literally daily. There was another company being acquired, daily. But the culture was, we are global, but we actually operate locally. So we always respected the local culture of that company. So in front of you is the journey, and I love the fact that within 10 years, you can see the expansion. It's really tangible. So how many have been here for at least 10 years? Raise your hands. Wonderful. At least 5 years. Nice. At least 1 year. Awesome. Is this your first day? By default, this is my first day. Okay, awesome. I want to get a feel of who's in the room. So, this is where you're going to get active. Don't worry, I won't make you get up. I won't make you say your name. I want to just do a quick poll in the room. 1 means never. 2 is rarely. 3 is sometimes. 4 is often. 5 is always. We're going to use our hand. We're not going to do the devices, just keeping it really, really simple. But I just talked about the why, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. My teams regularly hear a clear why before a new task. You want me to go back one? Yeah. 1 is never. 5 is always. 3 is sometimes, 4 is often. Now, let me say this because I'm clear who's in the room. We listen and we don't judge. We listen and we don't judge. CHRO, is that fair? We listen and we don't judge. Say this with me. We listen and we don't judge. Everyone's not saying it. We listen and we don't judge. One more time. We listen.
Don't judge.
Much better. One more time. Okay, now remember I'm a singer and director. I will make you sing it if you do not sing it, okay? I'll sit you into sections. So, I say that because the truth is the truth. Facts are different. And I don't want us to be paused because senior leadership is in the room, okay? I just want us to get a good pulse of where we are. So the question is, my teams regularly hear a clear why before new tasks are assigned. With your hand, I want you to show me if it's never, that's fine. If it's always, that's amazing. Usually doesn't really happen, but okay. Like, let's just be honest, that is, 3 is sometimes. That's about average. Often 4 is wonderful. So this is not about how you lead, this is about the clarity and the communication that your team has about their why before a new task. So I need to know from everyone in the room, when your teams hear a new task, do you think that they understand the why? So using your hand, left or right, let's put up some fingers and being honest. Okay, see a lot of 4s, a 5, awesome, 3, awesome. Really, really good, thank you. I saw a few of you who did not participate, I won't judge, but thank you. It's hard, 9 o'clock in the morning, like listening to someone. But this is why we want to talk about clarity. Simon Sinek talks about why 5 times, and it works. Sometimes it's exhausting, but it works. So when we have a new task, we want to make sure everyone is clear as leaders about the why. Can you imagine what it looked like in 2006 when the leaders of the Seminoles said, okay, we're going to buy all the Hard Rock cafes? Why? We don't even go to them. What are we doing? But there was a leader who had vision, and understood growth. So sometimes when we're cascading messaging to our team, be it on the field, installation, back office, they need to understand the why. Second, people in my area speak up about the risk without fears. Just think about that. Relevant to your area. People in my area speak up about the risk without fear. Do I have anyone in the room that is over field technicians? Any field tech, VP of field? Hello, sir, your name? Chris, good morning, nice to meet you. How long have you been over the team? 7 months? I appreciate that. You could have just hid in the background, but you did not. You can't hide. Okay, so when I hear this question, because I work with field techs a lot, I go back to a situation even during flooding, right? Where you have emergent, just different type. Then there's the day-to-day work. So do you think people in your team have the safety, if you will, to speak up? Thank you. Everybody's in line. When there's a risk at hand.
Honestly, right now, I think it's rare. I think it's because of prior leadership habits that they feel they haven't been able to be honest about some things. But that's changing.
So first, thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Can we give him a round of applause? It takes a lot of courage, right? And I need you to know you're in good company. 96% do not speak up. 96% of employees, and this is not ITG, this is a global study, this is some study at Harvard Business Review, they do not speak up. A lot of it is just work culture. You don't want to be the one to embarrass. You don't want to be the one to tell on. What if I'm wrong about what I think is wrong, right? So there's a risk factor. So I'm certified by New Jersey Bar for risk mitigation. I probably use it a little bit too much at home, Michael, no comment. But I do, because I associate risk with dollars. So often the change in leadership is what makes the difference. And I appreciate that transparency, because here's what we have to know as leaders. Most of it isn't new. Most of the issues we encounter are not new, especially if we've been doing the work for years. It is, do they feel safe? Have they assessed it correctly? And what is the impact? So when we think about our people speaking up without fear, how do we make sure we can listen and not judge? I know it's a social media thing, but when I thought about it, I was thinking that's a really good premise. We listen and we don't judge. Because the fear of being judged or assessed incorrectly would really have a greater financial impact. So, thank you for your honesty. Do I have anyone here in back office? By that I mean operations, finance, project management, not back, but project management, that is willing to give me feedback. Do your people speak up about a risk they might see? If you're willing, we have a microphone to go around. No one? Come on. Okay. If not, I just want to make sure. There's a prize involved in participation when you work with me. I cannot tell you the prize right now because your president doesn't know. But there is a prize. I just want to make sure we're having the conversation as leaders, because when we do not, we see the actual output. So if I don't have any volunteers, that's fine. Is Michael Durkin here? I know. Send him the mic, please. Thank you. You know, I have to do my homework. I can't come in here and just be an absolute stranger. That would be rude. So, and I saw your name before your quote on the award, actually. I understand you to be a servant leader. Started as a tech, 25 years later, COO. Is that correct?
That's correct.
See what I did? Do you remember my name? It's okay. No, my mom messes it up. She named me. She calls me Sue 100 times. I'm like, that's your sister. Shirelle. I'm named after the group, the Shirelle. So fun fact, you will get quizzed on that later, so please remember. You'll have to spell it right, but know it. Okay, Michael, you shared the name of my husband. I was drawn to you immediately, but I see that you're a servant leader. So tell me your opinion on this question. Why do you think people are not speaking up about risk?
I think in general, I think there's 2 reasons probably. And again, maybe not, so is this specific to ITG or you mean a general question of employees?
I don't want to assume ITG as leaders, right? So let's generalize it. Why don't we see that often?
So I think 2 reasons. One is, I think sometimes people assume it won't matter. Right? I'll speak up, but it's not going to change anything, so what's the point? You know, fear of putting themselves out there for no return if it's not going to change. And then I think the other one is probably the goes without saying, people fear of, you know, what happens, right? The retribution of, you know, I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna upset the wrong person, and suddenly I can't get promoted, or I can't, you know, I'm gonna be on the bad list, if you will. I think that's the biggest concern that most people would have.
Thank you. I have a prize for you at the end. I can't talk about it right now. Thank you. So that is the most common, is the fear of retaliation. And I want to just bring that up because that's across the board. So I was in the department for 6 years in the PMO, but we particularly handled acquisitions, M&A, mergers and acquisitions. And I walked into an air quote team that was myself and one other. I was like, whoa. So that team they're talking about is us. So she and I laughed. And we started looking through all the documents and the activity, major company. But they didn't have a formal M&A team. And so one of the things I noticed out the gate, like, we don't actually have structure or continuity when we think about the project management side of this. She was very paused to speak up to our later VP at that time, director. And I said, we're gonna have a center of excellence. We have to start with us. So rather than making it accusatory, I just presented the data and suggested a couple of solutions. And we did amazing work. Our team grew to 11, much larger now, no longer there. However, my point is the fear of retribution can sometimes have people to check out. So we want to make sure that we cultivate and continue to cultivate an environment where your actual staff can come to you with something they've identified or they have concern about and not have the fear of retribution. And that's not to say that's the culture of ITG, let me be clear. I'm talking to leaders. That is the essence of the climate we're in. People are often afraid to speak up because they don't know what the end result will be. Last but not least, I protect weekly coaching time with direct reports. I wanted to bring this up because one, you may not have weekly one-on-ones. I think that can be a lot for most of us. But I want to encourage the leaders, protect your one-on-ones. It means a lot for those who report to you to have time with you without an audience. It's the time they get to grow, it's the time you get to learn, and then implement. So first let me ask, just by show of hands, how many here have one-on-ones with their teammates? Okay, it's a really good amount, thank you. Great, I didn't see that before. Now, protecting your one-on-ones. That means try as best to not make it an option, to move it, to change it. Okay, I have another one. Oh, okay, not be guilty. Okay, can I move you around? Can I? Because sometimes that can totally reset a person's mindset and what they were going to come to you with or their growth pattern. So really try to protect it, and it really builds their trust in you as a leader. Okay, let's talk about inspire. Money. I like money. Okay, some people are shy about that. I like money. Money is a tool, it is a resource. I'm able to give back. I'm able to help others. I like when I receive money. I like what money can do. But when we think about inspiration, we normally don't think about money being inspiring. But here's what I want you to know. Remember I said ITG equals inspire, trust, and grow. Every $1 in leadership training returns $4.53 in productivity gains, straight from IBM this year. I just want you all to see the number. I don't like for people to have to read and listen while I do slides, but I talk because I want you to just, if we spend $1, the return is $4.53. So it is not a cost when we educate and develop. It is actually an investment, where you will see the ROI. So how do we convert? How do we actually see the margins once we have invested the dollar? You have purpose-driven organizations. They literally are up 42%. And what I have heard today, and what I've encountered over the couple of weeks with speaking with your leadership, there's purpose. When you as a leader can say, I used to be in the field, it resonates so differently. When you as a leader can say, how can I serve you? How can I equip you? It makes a difference. And what I heard this morning so far, this is a purpose-driven organization. Now, in Florida, there's an empathy case where it showed if WeWork is down, productivity is up by 30% along with the NPS score. Does anyone know what the NPS score is? Net promoter. Who's in sales here? Who's in sales? Lift your hand. Oh my God, you're so shy. Am I intimidating? Should I come to the floor? You're not in trouble. He's dodging. They're pointing at you. Okay, so, your name, sir? Bob. That is not his name. What is your birth name? Troy, didn't you just win an award?
No, I've never won an award alone.
Okay, I'll go back to my notes. I'm a really good note taker. So, Troy, thank you. I wanted to stop there because generally a Net Promoter Score has how many questions? 5. You know what the best one is? This is where it's fun. We live and breathe NPS. This is the work I've done.
Would you recommend us?
Say it again, Mike.
Would you recommend us?
Would you recommend us? That is the proven question that brings returning or net new business. They skip everything else. That's the one question. So maybe you have to talk about is 5 too many? It might be. But the one you want to have that little asterisk by it required is, would you recommend us? That is the question that unequivocally brings in business. So, customer experience is our job at ITG. That is the question that validates and reminds us that customer experience has been done the correct way. Because when they answer that one question on a Net Promoter Score, you can go back, the sales team, and say, okay, what do we pursue? Who do we pursue? How do we saturate the account? So I want to be really, really clear as leaders, we have to make sure our team members across the board know how important the NPS is. There was a time when it was a part of our actual performance review. And from a project portfolio perspective, if we didn't have that question answered, we had to speak to why and actually have a workflow that showed we attempted. So the Net Promoter Score is absolutely amazing. And internally, we have a Net Promoter Score whether we realize it or not. It's retention. Who's leaving? Who's staying? The why. The exit interview. That's a part of it. So we have to think as leaders, do we actually discuss and bring clarity around the Net Promoter Score? If you remember nothing else, that one question is what we need everybody to answer. Let's look at some quick numbers. 18% of employees are looking for work. 36% of employees are engaged at work. 34% of employees would recommend their manager. 20% of employees feel meaningfully recognized at work. Now, this was a global report that was just done by, I want to say We Recognize, and these are the stats that came back. This is not reflective of ITG, I want to be very clear. However, what I like is a baseline. So if there was an assessment for ITG, I wonder where our numbers would fall. And as leaders, when we look at the data, it helps us to introspectively say, okay, how am I doing? Do my employees enjoy working here? Are they engaged? Would they recommend? And do they actually feel recognized? And here's the truth we know as leaders. We can never make everybody happy all the time. That is impossible. But what is the general consensus? And with educating, with employee education and development, it allows everyone to have a unified train of thought. Now, we're not saying think the same, but when we think about the business, the health of the business, this is where it shows up. So quickly, I want to talk about, I have a book called The Empathy Engine. Do not worry, I'm not going to ask you to buy it, I'm not selling it. I just want to talk about one perspective for leaders, what we talk about. The book is called The Empathy Engine. So, empathy, that quote is very hard to read at the bottom. You do not have to try to read it, I make it simple. But I believe this is the key cog, if you will, in a machine that makes the business run. That's active listening. So as leaders, active listening is a challenge. Since I've been up here for the past 26 minutes, I have literally thought about, did Zoe take lunch? My mom drove her, she probably stopped and got her Chick-fil-A instead of the lunch she's supposed to take to camp. Mike has to leave at a certain time. I have leaders in the room who have to check emails, hoping that this falls in line with what the president wants. The CHRO, is she good with it? All that has happened while I've stood right here. And I've been totally tuned in. But active listening requires space and pause. So, each one of us represents a cog in the wider system. How we choose to operate affects the others within the system. Everyone's contribution is unique. Something no one else can bring. It is our responsibility, and it's not to be underestimated. Christian Kelly, love his work. Here in simple form, I'll tell you, if you're ever familiar with a ship, the rudder is one of the smallest pieces on the ship, but it steers it. So everyone counts. And as leaders, we have to recognize the rudders. What do I mean? There are going to be some on the team who may not have the title VP, director, field, janitor, all sorts. This is beyond ITG. This is leadership at its best. But it's the rudder, that small piece, that actually moves the ship. So when I go back and think about bingo hall across the street, that was the rudder. How do we go from a bingo hall to the guitar? How do we go from a bingo hall to all of the Hard Rock cafes? How did ITG go from in 2013, a couple guys got together, okay, let's do this, to now acquire 4 companies at minimum or more? Keep me honest. See, I love it. 26, I did my work. 26 in 10 years. So if I just average that, let's be fair, that's 2 a year, and during what we all experienced, the first pandemic for our human living. That is amazing. So the COG, active listening. How are you today? Don't answer. Say, do you have time for my answer? We ask it because we're familiar, but sometimes we don't have space. And as the leaders, when you say to your staff, how's it going? Most are going to give you the blanket answer. We're good, everything's good, things are moving along. No, tell them pause. Wait, don't even answer. How's it going? Why? In active listening, you need the 3-second pause. Let silence invite the truth. Now, not the silence like in the room right now while I'm talking and you all are looking. That's a different silence. But I teach 2 to 4-year-olds. Their silence is different. This is the silence that a leader invites their teammate, their subordinate, their peer to think and then answer. Sometimes paraphrase before you prescribe. So after you have listened and you're ready to answer, make sure that you say, is this what I hear you saying? Because sometimes what we hear is not what's being said. Ask for more details before you actually get to solving the problem. What is the root? I have sciatica. I have never experienced this in my life. Let me just give you all an example. It is the worst pain ever. I did childbirth, all the things. And I'm asking, what is this? My leg is killing me. Ice pack, call my mom, she's a retired nurse, all the things. And I was like, no, this feels different. They did some MRIs, and they're like, oh, it's sciatica. We, need some physical therapy on your back. And in my typical form, I was like, it's not my back, it's my leg. I don't want to do physical therapy. I was over it. And then when they showed me the MRI, he said the pain is sourcing from your L5. But where you're feeling it is in your calf. I'm like, oh. He's like, so we're not going to sit and put ice packs on your calf when that's not the root of the problem. So when you're listening as a leader, listen for the root of the problem. Emotions are natural, but I love data. Data often tells me the actual truth. And so when you're listening, think about, how can I pause, make sure I understand what's being said, and then provide resolution. And it may not be in that moment. That is the crank that powers every other cog. You set the example. When you do it, they'll begin to do it. Often people say children do what they see, not what you say. And that's just the truth. And not to liken staff to children, but it is our natural proclivity that we sometimes emulate what we see. So that within itself will begin to resonate throughout your team. Okay. When you pause, there's a payoff. Okay, I took a pause for you to read. What key metric in your region would actually improve if every leader used a 3-second listening pause? So I'll give an example. When I had my assignment years ago at Cisco Foods, we were doing all of the closets, all the networking cabling, upgrading. Before every overnight start, you had to review the network diagram. So as lead program manager and solution architect, I went through all the diagrams, making sure, because this was all a night shift, and if you're anything familiar with food services, you cannot have a delay in the start time of the belt and the trucks pulling up. That is a no-no. There is a fine. For different grocers, you all can imagine the fines. I always say, have you read the network diagram? Are we clear who's in what closet? We do the run through. We get 5.5 hours into a 10-hour shift, and I do my walk around, and I realize closet A on the northwest side of the main campus, it still resonates that much with me, was absolutely backwards. When I say backwards, the only thing that was installed correct was the actual network. Nothing else. The cabling, everything. So I called the two guys. I'm like, who reviewed the diagram? Oh, everything is good. I'm like, it's backwards. And now we're T-4 hours, so we've lost. And the closet is but so big, right? We know this. You can't fit an army of people in an IT closet. So we had to redo it up against the clock. That, for me, gave a signal. Not only do we have teams, but we need to have a designated lead for the install every night. Because what happened is someone left a more junior lead to do the work while he went to some other closets. and then come back to check on them. So if I had to go back, that is the fix I will put in place. There's no actual lead, not a self-designated lead, and that lead has to do check-ins. We had a war room, we did all the things, but once the guys got in the room, started doing the work, they were just at it. So we had to do it. We got it done, it was extenuating, but it also reminded us when we worked together, we could actually get it done. So what I want you to think about is truly what metric in my region or department would improve if every leader just took a 3-second pause and listened. This is really, really important in the Inspire, Trust, and Grow, because that's where the trust is built. You don't have to have an immediate answer to solve a problem. You need to think it through. So teams with strong learning cultures have a 30% lower turnover. I just wanted to see if we understand that turnover impacts our bottom line. Now this is across industry, but I'm talking to the ITG leaders. If we can minimize and mitigate turnover, that 34% increases the revenue. It increases operating. Every time you onboard someone, there's a cost associated with that. So think about that one pause action you'll take next week. I said a test, but I think I used the wrong language in saying a test. It's not a test. This is about implementing tools that will help you help those who work with you and empower them. So you think about the one action you can do next week that's relevant to your work area. Now, when there's low trust and lack of support, these are the numbers. 22% of managers have regular one-on-ones with their manager. 24% of employees say their managers support their professional development. And 25% of employees say they are receiving coaching from their manager. So when we look at this in the bigger scheme of things, we have a workforce, and this is large scale. We'll come back to ITG, but I want to show you the national numbers so that as leaders you can think back and question your team internally. You can just soft inquiry and poll. How are my one-on-ones going? What do they look like? Do you have structure in your one-on-ones? What does it look like for field techs versus install, linemen, project managers? That may look differently because the work sometimes causes that, but are we having it? Are we having this type of communication? Do you have someone in field who's interested in being a project manager? How are those conversations actually initiated? I don't know who or how they thought within the similar tribal leaders, we can own it all. There's a lot of names listed. There's history about it. But when you think about the inspiration, how do you go from a bingo hall to $1 billion? And let's be clear, this is the largest casino organization in the US. This is Seminole Tribe, Hard Rock. So we as leaders have to really think about the questions we're asking. We have to think about our teammates and their actual fulfillment in careers. That is the weight we carry as leaders. Sometimes people are doing a job because they have to do the job, not because they want to do the job. So then it's our job to inquire of their next and what have they observed. When is the last time you've had a one-on-one where it was absolutely an exploratory conversation? My husband laughs. We have a 17-year age difference, although I look very, very young for my 20 years in the industry. We laugh about how we relate as leaders. He's methodical, he's numbers, he's going to have it right, he knows Me, I'll know about more of everyone's personal life in the C-suite where he works than he will. It's relational. These things matter. So everyone is different, but as a leader, are you taking the time to make sure inspiration and trust is there. Because if you don't have those two, and you're not using the active listening cog, essentially the last one doesn't matter. You can't grow without the first two. So how do you go from a bingo hall to $1 billion industry? Trust. I said it before. How many of you work truck roles could we avoid this quarter if supervisors pause for 3 seconds before approving the closeout? Just food for thought. If you were VP in sales and finance, what revenue or credit memo would disappear if the account teams asked more clarifying questions before promising on the install date? And I heard earlier the leadership talk about the numbers, billing costs. We want all of the AR to come in on time. These things matter. If I was a director of field techs, which safety hazard on last week's job board would have surfaced sooner if the text felt safe to shout stop? I want to use different roles and titles because the fact remains we have to ask the right questions. We have to evoke the right conversation. And from what I can tell and what I've heard here at ITG, this is a cultural organization that has done that to date. And what the leadership wants to do is make sure it's cascading. So this is literally about what are we communicating, how are we communicating, and why? Because that reflects the development, that reflects the training. That's when we're really able to assess. Okay, so I've talked for over 30 minutes. I'm almost at the end. But I want to do a trust drill. So if you have a partner next to you, I tried to do a really good count. This is where you guys get to talk to each other. Oh gosh, well, I don't have time for that. Like, this is supposed to be a keynote. I know. That's not how I do my keynotes. So the same way I have ignored this one line that's going through all my slides that is aching me to death, you will now turn to someone, or if it's uneven, 2 or 3 of you get together. One person speaks 30 seconds about a current challenge. That's partner A. Then partner B will listen, but you have to wait 3 seconds and paraphrase. Then you switch roles. Now, is there anyone who doesn't have a cell phone? Perfect. Some of you have pen and paper, maybe a few, I'll ask a few notebooks. I need us to actually participate in this because as leaders, we have to know that we're in a safe space to share and grow. And it seems to me, we have a president who's transparent, vulnerable. You have founders who were very transparent and vulnerable. But sometimes when we're just doing the work, we keep moving. So I need you to look at your table. I think it's 6 for the most, right? And 4 in the middle. Do you have someone next to you? Tell me, pick your partner. Okay. Because you guys are not going to cooperate the way I was imagining. I can already tell you. Okay. Who needs coffee? Who needs a water break? Who needs a bio break? All the things. Because now, I told you I'm from New Jersey. I'm not from the South. I'm not a Southern Belle. So we're going to do this a little differently. Now, if you're split up, you don't have to leave your table. Have you identified your partner set? Yes? There's prizes at the end. Okay, so they don't want to get prizes. Okay. Everybody's got it. Okay, so partner A, raise your hand if you're going to be the first one to share. You don't have a partner? You're going a little bored. You're a little exempt because you're not bored. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start my time. This is the only time you're going to be challenged to participate. So I want to make sure that we do this, okay? So if you know who your partners are, who is A? Okay, everybody who is A, you get ready, and what you're going to do is literally up there in front of you, right? Tell them or the person, if it's a group of 2 or 1, the current problem you're facing right now. 3, 2, 1, start. Time's up. Yup. No, okay, keep going. I know, right? I had another, they were like, oh my God, we're not done. That's a new problem. I can tell my daughter, it's not a me problem. Go finish the chores. So that's your 30 seconds. And it's lightning speed because the reality is, as leaders, it can come at you that way. That's just, we have to just negotiate what we're going to address, what we're going to do. Okay, so whoever the A person was, thank you for sharing. Now, the B person, or persons, you now have 30 seconds to tell them the paraphrase. Okay? I'm going to ready. 1, 2, 3.
Their historical numbers say they need the money. Yes. You're not worried about one thing. Well, I remember
All done. Okay, I even gave you 2 extra seconds for good measure. Doesn't that feel intense? Yes. Who is it easy for? Tell me. The paraphrasing? Okay, paraphrasing was better, right? How about the 3-second pause? Did you take the 3-second pause? No. No, you didn't. I watched. I forgot to do the 3-second pause when I first did this. So, now imagine you're out in the field and there's an issue. There's a power issue, a POE issue, gas, something that maybe has nothing to do with your team, but is impacting their work. Now it is the new Xavier Extension Campus University being West Palm Beach, Florida. And the Ross Foundation, all eyes are on it, and now it's hammers down. You all can't do anything because Next Era has an issue at a meter that a drone has picked up, and they have to wait for it to get back to main office, compute the data, and see if it's safe for everyone to resume work. However, ITG is fined by the day if there is a delay, because we have a fixed fee project, we've committed, we do not want any change requests, we have it all fully staffed. So then when you call and say, what's going on? You as the leader have to give the actual reporter at this point, whoever the leader on site at the field is, a chance to breathe, a chance to process. But those teammates are not in the room today. You are here. You are their leader. So you have to equip them. That's what we do daily. We have to equip them. WRG specializes in this because we understand workforce complexity and communication. But as leaders, having 30 seconds to tell your peer what your problem was, then pause, then paraphrase, that's a different type of pressure. We have the luxury of this is the room, this is the keynote, we'll go on for the rest of the day, but that doesn't happen in the field. It doesn't happen in the back office. What do you do when there's a payroll error that is actually not reflective of the payroll team, but because they weren't given the right tax codes? How do you take the pause? What tool do you use? Do you inspire? Do you show trust? And then how do you grow? Do we red team projects? Do we have retrospects? Do we have war rooms? What are the tools that we use to make sure that the entire organization is enabled? So the reason I wanted us to take this moment is because the pressure is surreal, but it's different when it's in real time. So if a crew member spotted a safety risk that would delay the job, would they speak up? What do we in this room, jointly as leaders, I told you today was my first day at ITG, so I get to say we, I'm now employed. What do we think the answer would be? This is not a trick question, this is just our gut. No matter what department you represent, no matter what team you represent, do we think that the crew member would feel like they could speak up without, to Mike's point, the retribution? Thumbs up if you think so. Thank you for giving me your thumbs up, sir. Thumbs up. Okay. Is there any thumbs down? You can just tap your feet if it's thumbs down. We'll see you. Okay. We need to know that because this is a part of the COG, the active listening. So 15% faster when you have a team that's enriched by learning. 15%. What does that mean? Projects complete 15% faster. So not on time, not on budget, ahead of time. Saving on budget. And I know for the most part, when we save on budget, it's 6 feet, that's rev that gets to come back in the house. That's what we get to reflect on the P&L. That makes the sales team happy. It makes everyone happy. We get to recoup those points. So if we think about communication and safety, active listening is the key. Now, simply 4 factors that predict leader effectiveness. I just want you all to see this because these are the common, actual 4 pieces that help leaders be effective. Contact, recognition, coaching, and career development. So all the things I've said already. Not going to fill you up with a bunch of theories, a bunch of this is how you do it. I think 3 is the magic number. I have said that we are here to inspire, trust, and grow. But layered in that are these attributes. Contact, just leaders supporting each other. Recognition, we saw that today. I mean, it was like, oh, this was all in my deck. I'm like, oh, we're doing awards. I said, this is perfect because recognition matters. It matters, it makes the difference. Some people think, oh, it's competitive. Most of us are born competitive, but recognition says thank you, and it highlights it. Coaching. Okay, do we have basketball fans? Someone in here is a Miami Heat fan. I won't judge them. There's a few of you Miami Heat. We're in New York House, Oklahoma Thunders. That's the basketball side. That stuff can get touchy. Football fans? Oh, I've already declared what we do in my house. So you mean soccer? Or no? Okay. Well, football. New York Giants football. Who said no birds? The Philadelphia Eagles fans in here? Birds? Who are the birds?
Super Bowl champions.
Who are they?
49ers, but we don't call them birds.
The Eagles. I know they are. That's not from the East Coast. We know. Now, the fans of the Eagles, yeah, my uncle is, it's a little different. He's 70 and still fights like he's 20 about his Eagles. I bring this up because coaching, I played basketball at Seton Hall. So, your coaches on the sidelines, they can see what you can't, no matter how great an athlete you are. It's our job as leaders to watch on the sideline and give the constructive feedback so that they can grow. That is the difference with coaching and mentoring. And sometimes leaders, we mentor instead of coach. That's okay to do both, but you have to coach. You have to prepare them. You have to give them the vantage point. You have to tell them what they can't see while they're there. I mean, kids now, they don't know about VHS tapes, but remember, we used to play, you had to watch back the tape. That's coaching. So are you actually playing back the tape for your team members so that they completely understand where the opportunity is, not just the miss? So I've talked about a lot. I is for yes, inspire. T is for G is for growth. So how do we do this as leaders when we're working, we're managing, we're figuring out, we're meeting, and we're achieving? What we do, and what I'm so proud of at WRG is the Better Seat Blueprint. How many of you all think I'm gonna be ready to sell you something? I love that feeling. You do? Raise your hand. We're listening, we don't judge. You think I'm about to sell you something? No one? One person, thank you. I am not. I'm just literally sharing with you what we do. It's the Better Seat Blueprint. Why do we name it the Better Seat? For ITG. Because what I want you to know today is you started at the bingo hall, Hard Rock, but the better seat is where you are now. When leaders can imagine the better, if you actually can think it, envision it, then you can actually build it. It sounds cliche, but it's very true. So, the better seat, these are the instructions we use in the blueprint. You write one sentence that your group can quote. Draft a 60-second red flag ritual. And then block a weekly coaching slot. Now, I said calendar now, if it permits. For some, it's bi-weekly. We just want consistency. And what you get, FTR, what does FTR stand for? First time right, thank you, sir. Minimized or zero rework. Safety, net promoter score. When you apply this blueprint, you literally can circle which one of these are being impacted, increased, or better. Is it the first time right? Is it rework? Is it safety? Is it the net promoter score? So, to make life easy, I just want to show everybody an example of what it looks like. I made up the name, made up the role, just wanted to give you a good sense of what we do. Write the why. We build the digital backbone of every home. Crews quote this in toolbox talks. The pause. The spotter counts. 1, 2, 3, safe. The climber waits and then says clear. Safety incidents, they're reduced within 2 months. And block coaching. An example, Maria will have every Friday, 7:30 to 8 a.m. with 8 supervisors. So she'll rotate, but just one-on-one time with them. That has taken onboarding cost and impact down by 25%. So when the blueprint is in action, all the leaders have the tool, the same format, that you can actually cascade down to your teams. No one does anything the same, but you should see some continuity. There is nothing like Bulls 96. Do you all know whom I speak? Who am I talking about? Who? The GOAT. When the Chicago Bulls, 1996, there's nothing like it. And when I talk to my young adults in Camden, New Jersey, who I tutor once a month, and they're on a Cisco WebEx for bodegas, pizzerias, one at an ice cream shop, another one at someone else's home, because they don't have internet access. They don't have a phone line. I think about the ITG crew. You all might be one of the crews that are a part of installing the fiber in the infrastructure that is the lifeline to their education. You all do more than just infrastructure work. You set the foundation that inspires, that allows the community to have trust in their providers and grow. And I say that because I do the work with you. So to have a blueprint gives instructions, it gives guidance, and it gives a structure for the right infrastructure in our teams and future leaders. That is what we do at WRG. It's generally 12 weeks. Week 1, blueprint coaching. Week 4, red flag audit. Week 8, the KPIs. And then by week 12, we bring the numbers down. I wanted to share with you today that if you don't have a blueprint for your leaders and your future leaders, you don't have clarity. And not that the blueprint doesn't change or you cannot audit or adjust, but you have to have a basis. It is the infrastructure, just like the work we do here at WRG. And if you know anything about Bulls 96, no greater team have we ever had. I dare someone to argue it. Try me. Good, we're all on one page. Cannot. Now we'll have opinions, but the numbers are the numbers. There was nothing like it, nor have we seen it again. So one thing I want to leave you with today, the Seminole tribe is known as the undefeated. This presentation wasn't about the Seminole tribe, but I want you to imagine ITG is the undefeated in your industry. Imagine what it looks like when you saturate throughout and globally. It requires leaders to continue to learn, to be empathetic, to listen actively with a pause, and then cascade the messaging down. What we know, absolutely, is that the Seminole tribe turned a 90-day bingo experiment to the global guitar hotel empire we sit in today. So the seat you sit in today is far better than how it started, but I'm quite sure it's not over. So the empathy sprint, I'm not going to go into details. We know what empathy is, and I spoke about it just a moment ago. My students in Camden, New Jersey, who mostly do not have access to cable internet, they do not live in rural America, they live in the inner city. But there are areas of the inner city where they do not have access. We are the team that does the work. We are the leaders that are purpose-driven. So the empathy sprint is about really checking, do we have the communication, the rituals, the data, all of it in place to look back and say we inspire, we trust, and we grow, and that's how the leaders learn. So what I'm going to give to your leaders here is the actual blueprint, a copy, an overview, but what I want you to think about is the actual hidden margin. When your training dollars are understood as an investment, not a cost, then the greatest resource you have are your people. So today, my hope is that you made it through the keynote without sleeping, without doing 55 emails, no fires have blown up. Most importantly, you have been absolutely attentive, which I appreciate. Most importantly, I believe that you showing up at the summit is your first step in actually activating your blueprint. That is what we love to do. This is how we are effective in the room, in the building, and outside. But I want to say this. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your yes. Thank you for trusting your leadership. This work can only get done by trusting your leadership. Even trusting your leadership to bring a stranger up here to talk to you about leadership. This is how you know you are now sitting in the better. So thank you so very much. May you enjoy the rest of the summit. I am the only thing holding you between your bathroom and coffee break and snacks, and so I no longer want to keep you at bay. I thank you for your time. I'm Shirelle Francis. I thank you for this moment, and may you live in the better. Thank you.
I love it. She spoke for wow, 1 hour and 20 minutes here, and I'm pretty sure everybody listening, and I was listening in the back, maybe some thoughts about it.